You've been told a story your whole life. That money comes from the government, that somewhere in Washington there's a giant printer, and the Federal Reserve decides how much to run. It's a nice story. It's also almost completely wrong because more than 90% of the money sitting in your bank account right now was never printed by the government, never minted, never touched by a press. It was typed into existence out of nothing by a private company, and not as some shady conspiracy. It's legal, it's normal, and it's happening millions of times a day. The wildest part, the institution doing it isn't even hiding it. A central bank literally published a paper admitting exactly how it works. Once you understand this, you'll never look at your paycheck, your mortgage, or the word savings the same way again. First, the story you were taught. Picture a bank as a giant piggy bank. You walk in, deposit $1,000, and the bank stores it. Then someone else walks in needing a loan, and the bank lends them your $1,000 and charges interest. The bank is just a middleman, like a matchmaker between savers and borrowers. Like simple, logical. It's in the textbooks. It's what most people, including a lot of finance people, still believe. There's just one problem. It's not how banking works at all. Banks do not take your deposit and hand it to a borrower they don't need to. Because a bank doesn't lend money, it has a bank lends money it creates. And the moment you understand that difference, the entire economy starts to look very different. Meet Dave. Dave wants to buy a house for $300,000. He walks into his bank, fills out the paperwork, gets approved. Now, here's what you think happens. The bank goes into a vault, scoops out 300 grand of other people's savings, and hands it over. Here's what actually happens. A loan officer types 300,000 into Dave's account. That's it. That money did not come from a vault. It did not come from another customer's savings. It did not exist 5 seconds ago. The bank created it instantly by typing a number. On the bank's books, Dave now owes them 300,000. That's their asset. And Dave's account now holds 300,000. That's their liability. 2 new entries conjured in the same instant. Brand new money born from a keystroke. Economists have a clean little phrase for this. Loans create deposits, not the other way around. The bank didn't need your savings to lend to Dave. It needed Dave to sign. The signature is the magic. The debt is the money. Now, if this sounds like something a guy with a basement bunker would tell you, I get it. So don't take my word for it. Take the Bank of England's. In 2014, the Central Bank of the United Kingdom published a paper called Money Creation in the Modern Economy. And in plain English, they said the textbook story is wrong. Banks do not simply lend out the deposit savers place with them. Whenever a bank makes a loan, it creates a brand new deposit, new money, in the borrower's account. They even put a number on it. About 97% of the money in the economy is created this way by private banks making loans. Only about 3% is physical cash. Read that again. Almost all the money in existence was never printed. It was lent into existence. And here in the US, the money supply is around $22.5 trillion. The overwhelming majority of which isn't bills in a wallet, it's just numbers created by banks every time someone borrows. Okay, so if banks can summon money out of thin air by typing numbers, why isn't every bank infinitely rich? Why don't they just type themselves $1 trillion and retire? Because there's a catch, and it's the catch that quietly controls the entire economy. We'll get to it in 1 second. And if this is already breaking your brain a little, do me a favor and hit subscribe. This channel is about the boring mechanics that secretly run your money, the stuff the news won't touch. Okay? Back to why banks aren't gods. Banks can't create infinite money for a few reasons. First, they need someone willing to borrow. No borrowers, no new money. Second, every loan is a bet. If Dave stops paying, the bank eats the loss, so they can't just hand money to anyone with a pulse. Third, regulators force banks to hold a cushion of capital against their loans, which caps how much they can create. And fourth, the big one, the central bank sets the interest rate, the price of borrowing. Raise the rate, borrowing gets expensive, fewer loans, less new money. Cut the rate, borrowing gets cheap, more loans, more money. That single dial is how the Fed steers the whole machine. And here's the part nobody mentions. Nah, money doesn't just get created, it gets destroyed. When Dave makes his mortgage payment, the money he pays back doesn't move to some other account. It disappears, deleted. Yet the loan shrinks, and that money vanishes from existence the same way it appeared. So the money supply is alive. It breathes in when people borrow and out when they repay. So why should you care? Because this changes everything about how you understand your own money. The dollars in your account aren't a fixed pile that the government carefully manages. They're debt. Somebody, somewhere, borrowed them into existence, which means the money supply grows whenever banks lend more. And more dollars chasing the same houses, the same stocks, the same groceries is exactly what pushes prices up. That's a big part of why your savings quietly lose value every year, not because the government printed cash, but because the banking system is constantly creating new money as new debt. And it gets stranger, because almost all money is somebody's debt. The system has a built-in addiction. Total debt has to keep growing. If everyone in the country paid off their loans tomorrow, most of the money in existence would simply vanish, right? And the economy would seize up. Think about that. The thing we use to measure wealth only exists because we are collectively, permanently in debt. The money is the debt. You can't have one without the other. So here's the real picture. You were told money is printed by the government and managed by careful people in suits. The truth is, most of it is conjured by private banks with a keystroke every time someone signs a loan, and it disappears when that loan gets paid back. The economy doesn't run on cash, it runs on debt that pretends to be money, and the scariest risk isn't that they print too much, it's that almost none of it was ever printed at all. It's just numbers built on a promise that we'll all keep borrowing forever. If that flipped a switch in your head, that's exactly what this channel is for. The hidden machinery behind your money that nobody bothers to explain. Subscribe, and next time someone tells you the government controls the money supply, you'll know who actually does. See you in the next one.